Alright, so good afternoon everyone. We are in our 6th module in Computer Programming 12b. So, try muna natin i-review yung code natin from our last week's module. So, run natin ito. So, based on what you can still remember, we have created here a very simple Java program in which we can control the aircraft using the arrow buttons, yan, up, down, left, right. And once we click on space, the aircraft can simply, release some missiles. So for this week, we will actually be continuing this one, and we will try to refresh ourselves on how we have created this simple program here. So for this week, we will focus on what we call the collision detection. So ang idea nitong program na to is for us to this time add an alien or yung enemy natin in which we will try to shoot. So once the missile collided with the alien itself, the alien will disappear, yan, and somehow we will try to perform some basic calculation where the enemy will be subtracted, okay, as a score. So tingnan natin kung paano natin ito magagawa. So yun po, okay. So I hope you are ready to start our coding because we are in the module number 6 of Computer Programming 12b. So in this part of the Java 2D Game Basics tutorial, we will talk about what we call the collision detection. So when we say collision detection kasi, it's actually the way on how the game elements collide with another game element. So simply said, we need to detect when two objects collide on the screen. So in this example na gagawin natin, we will actually start from the beginning once again to create or recreate the shooting missiles. So this time we will add a new alien sprite, and we will try to detect two types of collision. So number 1, when the missile hits an alien ship, and number 2, when our spacecraft collides with an alien. Yan, pagka nag-collide na yung spacecraft natin sa mismong alien. Okay? Okay, so before we start our discussion here, I would like to create a program in which we will place every single Java file in this type of package na tinatawag natin. So let's close this one and right-click on the SRC this time, click on package, and let's add here collision detection. Tinatawag natin. So inside the collision detection is where we will be placing all of the Java files that we have. Alright, understood? So the first thing that we have to put here, of course, is the main method where we will now be placing the main class where we will be placing the main method itself. So kung napansin nyo dito, it added a package collision detection na keyword. Okay? Kasi it's important. And if you will also try to take a look dito sa may ating idea projects folder, a collision detection .java and a folder has also been created. So dito yan sa collision detection x.java. So dito, kagaya rin ng ginagawa natin, we will start from the main method here. We have the JFrame. Iano ko muna ito. Ayan. We have the JFrame. Tapos we need to import the following. So java.out .eventQ, tapos meron tayo dito javax.swing .jframe. Alright, so next is for us to create our public static void main string. Yan, main string args. Tapos sa loob nito is where we will be creating the event queue that invoke later natin, in which inside this one is we will be creating an anonymous inner class. Ayan, anonymous inner class kung saan ilalagay natin si collision x is equal to new collision x naman. So we will set the visibility x.setVisible and that set visible into true. Pero we are still experiencing some error. It's actually because, tignan natin if my spelling is somehow correct. Collision, tama naman ako. So collision X. Alright, next is for us to create our constructor, collision X, and inside the constructor, we will be putting here the init UI method. And followed by the public void init UI. Tapos, we will be putting here, the properties of our JFrame, in which the resizable will be somehow false. Tapos, back, we will be putting a title, collision, tapos let location relative to null, and of course, the default close operation, which is JFrame that exit on close. Ayan, so far so good. Okay, so let's add here an X. Ayan, so para mawala ng error dito. And this time, we will add, we're instantiating what we called the JPanel, and we will name that as board. So gagawin natin yan. So for now, of course, magkakaroon yan ng error. Okay, so gawa tayo dito ngayon ng new Java class, and we will name that as board. So again, tandaan po natin, si board po, dyan po ulit mangyayari lahat ng events. And so public class board, we will be extending JPanel, and at the same time, we will be implementing an action listener. So we will just simply be preparing this one, public board. Yan. Tapos, let's go ahead and import the following para ma-sure we have java.out and javax.swing. Okay, tapos maglagay din tayo dito ng java.out.event.actionListener. Yan, java.out.event.action event naman. Tapos, siguro mas safe kung lahat na lang ng events ang i-import natin para minsanan. We will also be importing the utilities kasi dito natin ilalagay si array list natin kung saan ilalagay natin yung missiles. Yan. So, mas maganda kung utilities na pagganyan na lang siya. Okay. So, we have here the constructor, public board. Yan. Si public board naman, alam naman natin to na dito natin tatawagin si init board, in which we will be working on later on. Si init board kasi dito natin ilalagay si t-adapter, in which we'll simply let the user to perform some key events natin. Okay, dito rin natin isa-set si SpaceShip natin. Okay, so for now, of course, ano muna natin yan? I-create lang muna natin lahat ng importante. So, private. Lagay ko to dito. Yan. Paliitin ko lang ito. So, private void init board para mawala lang yung error. Okay. Tapos, we will also be putting here an override annotation for, of course, the public void paint component. Okay, graphics G. Tapos dito rin natin ilalagay later on si super.paint component G. Tapos sa loob niyan, tatawagin natin lahat ng components ni graphics 2D. Okay. So kung napansin natin, meron pa yung error ito dito kasi wala pa tayong action performed. So we will be overriding some the action performed method action event E. Yan. Tapos dito sa action event E, this will actually be automatically performed once the program started running. Tandaan po natin yan ha. So for now, let's leave it as is. Ganyan muna siya. And what we are planning to do here based from our discussion last week, we have here the sprite, diba? Kasi we have the spacecraft, we have the aliens. So this time, gawin muna natin isa-isa ulit yung mga important classes na meron tayo. So we can actually move the spacecraft on the board using the cursor keys. So mamaya, or actually nagawa na natin to last week, ulitin lang ulit natin. The missiles destroying aliens are launched with the spacebar key. Now, this code here, the sprite.java, the code that can be shared by all sprites, yan, the craft, the alien, and the missile is placed in the entire sprite class na tinatawag natin. So gawin natin to kasi ito yung i-extend natin all of the components or all of the properties ni sprite later on will be inherited by everyone. Okay? Alright, so right-click natin si package natin, collision detection. So this time, let's create sprite. Yan. It's a sprite class. So, lagay natin siya dito. Somewhere siguro dito na lang sa baba nito. Kasi we have the main method. We have here the board. And this time, we have the sprite naman. So, ang sprite.java natin kasi, again, i-extend natin to. We will try to inherit most of the data fields na gagamitin natin dito. So, what are those data fields? Yan, yun yung gagawin natin. So, first of all, we will import first the following packages. Of course, dito natin ilalagay si image. Yung ano natin. We will also be placing here the rectangle. Yan. We will also be placing here the javax that swing, tapos si image icon natin. So, those are the three important packages that we need to import inside the sprite. So, dito sa sprite na to, we will be creating the following. Of course, the initial position, the X initial position, the Y initial position, tapos si protected int width, the initial size as width, and initial size as height. Tapos, we will also be putting here the boolean is visible or visible. And for as long as the missile is visible, yun yung mangyayari dyan later on. Tapos si image. So we will be inheriting these data fields na ginawa natin. So, iusot ko lang ito muna. Okay. So, ano yung una natin gagawin? Of course, the constructor. Public sprite. So, si sprite dito, it will simply call, of course, the int x, tapos si int y. Gagawin nito, this is actually the initial position of our spacecraft. Tapos gagamitin din kasi ito ng ating missiles as well. Yan, so visible equals true. So this is the initial value na meron tayo. Next is we have the protected void get image dimensions. Ayan. Si get image dimensions naman, dito rin natin i-declare si image natin because we will be getting the width and the height of our image. Ayan. So, yung image natin is yung aircraft lang, di ba? So, ang i-return nito na value is whatever the size or resolution of our image itself. So, ganun po yan. Next, so far, we have get image dimensions. Next is, of course, we will be loading protected void. We will be loading the image. Yan. So, string, image name. Tapos, image name here, we have an image icon. Tapos, I'll name that as I. Tapos, new image icon, image name. So, diyan ko ibabato mamaya yung magiging image na kukunin natin. So, get image. We will also be creating the public image. Yan, public image, get image. Yan, so anong i-return natin? Of course, image lang. Tapos, we have here public int get x. Anong i-return natin? Si x. And public int get y. Ang i-return natin dito is, of course, si y. What else? I think may kulang pa tayo. So, meron tayong x and y. Nagamit na rin natin si width and height. Yan, si visible. we will also be using the public boolean is visible. So, is visible naman. This is for actually the alien. Tapos si missiles later on. Tapos, set natin yung visibility niya. Public void set visible as boolean visible. Tapos, this.visible is equal to visible. The initial value of visible here is of course true. Yan, diba? So, initial value po yan, true. And lastly, the public rectangle. Ang rectangle naman, yan, this is actually for the bounds natin. So, return, what we will be returning here is the new rectangle, xy, width, and the height. Okay, so far so good. Of course, hindi pa gagana yung program natin. Create lang natin talaga yung superclass natin kung saan i-inherit natin lahat ito eh. Diba? So, inherit natin yan. So, going back to our module, yan. The getBounds method actually returns the bounding rectangle of the sprite image. So, we need the bounds in collision detection. So, dito pa lang, yan, nag-set na kasi tayo ng bounds agad-agad. So, importante po na magawa natin yan na pinaka-umpisa pa lang. Alright, next. So, we have here another class that we need to create, which is what we call the SpaceShip.java. And this class actually represents a spacecraft. So, using the sprite.java earlier na ginawa natin dito, we will try to inherit these methods here, and we will be using that inside the SpaceShip.java. So, gawin natin to, si SpaceShip.java. And for everyone's information, the SpaceShip.java here contains, of course, number one, this is actually where we will be placing the craft.png image. So, ilalagay na natin siya dito sa mismong program natin, craft.png. We will also be putting here the missiles in which we will be creating later on as well. Dito rin natin ilalagay si key pressed natin, kung saan kapag ka nag-press tayo ng space, left, right, up, and down, yan, something will happen. So, let's go ahead and create our SpaceShip.java program. So, right-click natin dito yan, and let's name that as Spaceship. Okay. So, I think mas maganda kung dito natin gagawin to, no? Para kahit paano kitang-kita ninyo. Oops. Ayusin natin. And I prefer na inayos lahat ng parts ng code natin dito in which dapat visible siya sa lahat, di ba? So, yan. Mas maganda yata kapag samahin ko na itong dalawang to. Or dito na lang muna sila. Okay, so spaceship tayo dito. Now, for the spaceship, we will be extending or inheriting again all of the components ng sprite natin. So, for now, of course, nagkaroon niya ng error kasi hindi pa natin siya totally ginagamit as of the moment. So, we will try to import the following. So, we have here java.out.event in which we will be using the key event. Kasi may key press na tayo eh. So, we have here util. Tapos, si array list. Yan, lalagay kasi natin yung missile dyan. Tapos, we have here utility and lists itself. So, the public class spaceship extends sprite here simply means we will be using majority of this. Okay? So, paano natin to gagawin? Of course, gawin natin si constructor spaceship natin. Tapos, si constructor spaceship natin, we will be placing here. Yan, int x and int y. Tapos, we will be calling the components or this particular variable here, the x and y. Tatawagin natin siya. Gagamitin natin siya kasi. So, whatever the value here na ilalagay natin dito will be used inside the SpaceShip.java program. So, super x and y dito. And I'll be declaring the following variable. So, private int dx, initial position yan ng ating spaceship, si dy. Okay. So, dito, lagay natin dito si initCraft in which ang initCraft natin is, dito ko ngayon ilalagay si missile natin and si craft mismo. So, initCraft. Yan. So, initCraft. So, the missiles here will actually be placed in what we call an array list. Diba? So, yung array list natin, as I have mentioned, based from our discussion last week, it's like an array. Pero this time, if we want to place some specific values sa loob ng ating container, this time ilalagay mo siya sa list kasi hindi mo alam kung ilan talaga yung kukunin, yung ilalagay mo na values or ilalagay mong data sa loob nun. So, it's better to use list. Pero it works the same as array as well. Yun nga lang, ang array kasi limited, di ba? You will be declaring the size of the array. You will be declaring its, of course, the size itself. Pero ang array, ang list, it's a different thing naman siya. So, parang ganun din. So, let's also declare here private list. Tapos, we will be using here later on the missile. Yan. Missiles. So, for now, of course, magkakaroon pa yan ng error. So, gagawa kasi tayo dito mamaya ng missile class in which we will be, of course, placing the missile and the missile properties itself. So, dito. So, for now, hayaan muna natin siya. Diba? So, wala muna. Let's focus first more on the SpaceShip class. So, inside the init craft, going back, dito rin kasi natin set si array list natin kung saan, of course, gagamit tayo ng array list for missiles. But then, again, since mag-error pa yan kasi nga hindi pa natin siya ginagawa, hindi pa natin ginagawa yung missiles.java natin, mamaya na lang yan. Next here is we will be loading the image. So, i-load natin yung image natin dito which is actually the craft.png. Yan. Tapos, ano natin yung image dimensions natin. Next is for us to use what we call the move. Si move naman, this is actually how we will try to move our spaceship. Diba? So, na-discuss ko rin to nung last week. So, initially, the position of your x is the position of the dx and the position of y is of course the position of the dy, but then it's increasing. Diba? And for as long as the position is less than 1, and if the position is less than 1, babalik yung position natin ng missile to the value of 1. Yan. Ganun din kay y. So, if the position of y is less than 1, babalik din kay position na magiging ganyan. For now, for the meantime, because this is actually the way on how we will move the missiles later on. So, medyo iniba ko lang yung pagkakasunod-sunod ng program natin, pero the idea is still the same. Okay? So, yan. Public move. We will also have here the public list missile in which again, hindi pa natin totally gagamitin ito or gagawin ito kasi hindi pa natin natatapos. Pero, the idea of this one is we will just simply be returning the missiles. Yan. So, for now, again, error pa yan. Again, lagyan pa natin yan ng comments. Ayan. Next is what we call the key pressed. So, we have here the public void key pressed. Ang key pressed natin dito, we have here the key event E, in which tinuruan ko rin kayo last week na kapag maglalagay kayo ng key press, you have to create or declare a variable key. Tapos, dyan mo ilalagay si key code mo. Now, if the key code here, if the key code is equivalent to the key event, which is vk_space, ayan, what will happen? Diba? If it is underscore space, of course, we will call a method called fire. Of course, error pa yun for now. Tapos dito, syempre, para mawala na yung error natin dito, let's create here the public void fire. Na pag ganyan na siya. Diba? So, if we also pressed here a key event, which is vk_left, for example. Pag left, again, the position of your spacecraft will be decreased by 1. Tandaan natin yan, ha? By 1. And if the key press is actually left, or right, I mean, vk_right, well, automatic, kapag ka nag-press ka ng right, madadagdagan yung value mo. Diba? So, that is 1. So, i-copy lang natin to pareho. Gawin natin siyang up and down. So, for up, it's a different story. And for down, it's also a different story. So, vk underscore up and vk underscore down. This time, dy and dy na siya. Okay, so wala ka ng problema for key press, no? Working na yan. Actually, for sure, mag-work na yan. And, once na nagkaroon ka ng key press dito, meron ka ring tinatawag na public void key release. Pero, sa to lang, hindi talaga natin gagamitin si key release. Sabi ko nga, di ba? Kasi si key release here is, yun nga, kapag ka nirelease mo si button, what will happen? So, in this case, nothing will actually happen. So, I can just simply copy and paste everything here. But then, this time, the position is, everything is set to 0. Ganyan po siya. Okay, so let's work on the fire. Ito, pag nag-press tayo ng space dito, we will simply be adding, yan, a missile. So, kumbaga, instantiate lang tayo dito ng missile. So, i-instantiate natin si missile ngayon. And we will simply be getting the position of your X value, or which is your spacecraft. Tapos, yung position mo rin ng Y value. Tapos, divided by 2. So, for now, of course, mag-error pa yan. Diba? So, ganyan lang siya. So, meron lang tayong craft dito. Pagka niran ba natin to mag-work na? Syempre, hindi pa. Kasi, hindi pa natin totally na-work on si board.java natin. That's why that's actually the next part of our program here. So, for the board class, yan, I have included here the positions of the alien ships in which saka na natin muna gagawin yan. Isa-isahin muna natin yan. For the board class, it's important for us to know the importance of the following. Of course, number 1 is the constructor. Tandaan natin na si constructor, siya po yung tumatawag kay init board. Diba? Si init board, dito, siya ngayon yung maglalagay ng key listener. Yan. Kung saan tatawagin si T-adapter. Ayan. Diba? So, kung natatandaan nyo yung T-adapter natin, ginawa rin natin siya nung last week. So, si T-adapter dito, siya po yung event listener natin. Diba? So, we have what we called here the private class. Yan. Private class T-adapter. Ginawa ko na agad, no? Extends key adapter. Oops. Key adapter. Yan. So, kung napansin nyo, nawala ng error dito. So, using the override annotation for the following class key released. Yan. Key event E. Ano nangyari? We will be using the SpaceShip dot key released E. Pero of course, magkakaroon pa yan ng error kasi hindi pa nga tapos yung program. So, key pressed. We have here key event E. And we have SpaceShip.key pressed E. So, we are experiencing some error, which is actually the spaceship here. Because the spaceship here wasn't really initialized ng maayos. So, we will try to initialize first the spaceship. First, we have the timer. Yan. We have here the spaceship. Spaceship, I'll name that as spaceship. Mawala ng error. So, using the spaceship class, ito. Using this spaceship class, tatawagin natin tong si spaceship class dito. Sa loob nito pa lang. Diba? And we have here the list, which is alien. Pero hindi pa natin ito magagamit for now. Kasi wala pang aliens na class. Tapos, for the image, the in-game, yan. Ito lang yung text natin mamaya. For the timer, wala rin tayong timer dito for now because I think nakalimutan ko maglagay na timer. Ayan. Javax.swing the timer. So, let's put here the initial values of the iCraft underscore x. Initial value or position, is final int. Sorry, this should be final int kaya nagkaroon ng error. final int iCraft underscore y, which is 60. Hopefully wala na error. Yan. So private final int b underscore width 400. Private final int b underscore height. This is actually the height and width of our JFrame. Okay. Tapos final int delay. Yan. Yung movement natin. Yung movement. Ayan. So we have the initial position. We have here the JFrame size itself. Okay. So set natin ulit dito. CT adapter. Okay na. Sa loob ng init board, we also have the set focusable into true. Tapos let's set the background here as color black. Tapos set natin yung in-game natin, which is the in-game is simply the boolean and as true. And the preferred size of our JPanel and dimension b width and b underscore height. Tapos si spaceship natin dito, si spaceship natin dito, we will be instantiating the spaceship with a position of iCraft X and iCraft Y. So kung mapapansin natin kasi na to, itong spaceship na to, it has a parameter of iCraft X and iCraft Y, which will automatically be transferred directly dito sa X and Y na constructor natin ng spaceship.java. So yun yung purpose nito. So using the sprite X and Y here na data field, yun yung ginagamit natin dito. Ito, mismo siya. 'Di ba? Ang galing. Ganun mag-work talaga ang ating object-oriented programming in reality. Okay, so next here, of course, meron tayong timer is equal to new timer, tapos lagay lang natin si delay, this, tapos timer, that start. Yan, of course, hindi pa ito mag-work kasi hindi pa po kompleto yung ating program. Diba? Ayan, so meron pa tayong error dito. The public void dapat ito, key released, and public void key pressed. Alright. And for now, let's comment out this first, itong private list natin na alien. Kasi wala pa eh. Diba? Alright, so try natin siyang i-run dito. And let's see what will happen. So for now, wala pa yung spaceship natin. Wala pa yung missiles, diba? Wala pa yung alien. So, nag-create lang natin is yung mismong preferred size natin dito. Pero, in order for us to make the spaceship appear here, we have to add another line of code in which, siguro dito sa may part na to, dito sa may action perform natin. Because the action perform, as I have mentioned earlier, this will be the code in which will be executed alongside with other codes in the main method. So, meron tayo dito kasing tatawagin na, for example, update ship. Yan. Si update ship natin dito, yan, it's a method in which, yan, update ship, kung saan, if the spaceship, for example, if the spaceship is visible, yan, the spaceship must move. Spaceship must move. So, tignan natin, no? Ayan. So, meron tayong update ship dito. Let's also use here the repaint method in our action perform. Tignan natin. And let's try to work on here sa may part natin ng paint component. Ito. Kasi wala pa tayong nilalagay dito sa paint component na to eh. So, the idea of paint component here is that if we are still in game, sabihin hindi ka pa na game over, we will still be drawing some objects. Yan. Otherwise, if you are not in game, you will now be drawing what we call the game over window. Diba? So, meron din tayo ditong toolkit kung saan ilalagay natin, isi-sync natin lahat ng nangyayari sa loob ng program natin. So, we have draw objects and at the same time, draw game over. Now, for the draw object here, we have private void draw objects. Ayan. Tapos graphics G. This is still graphics G. Okay. Tapos, if the spaceship is, of course, visible, what will happen? If the spaceship is visible, of course, we will draw the image of the spaceship. Tapos yung position ni spaceship natin. Get image, for example, yan. Tapos yung position ni spaceship, which is, kunin natin si getX. Tapos, oops, this should be method. We also have here the spaceship dot get y. Ayan. And of course, reference mo siya sa sarili niya. I hope na ano natin yun, no? So, meron na tayong draw object dito. Meron na rin tayo ditong what do you call this one? The draw game over. Yung draw game over, gawin natin. Private void draw game over. Pero ito, mangyayari ito once na dumikit or nag-collide na yung mismong spaceship sa alien natin. Pero saka na natin gagawin ito. For now, I leave it as blank for the meantime. Okay? So, try natin itong i-run. Ayun. So, gumagana na, no? Ayan. So, kung napansin natin dito, yung delay natin is every 15. And using the move, itong move na to, siya po yung nagpapagalaw niyan. So, once I click on the right, of course, dx will be 1. If I click on left, dx will be negative 1. Up, magiging negative 1. Down, plus 1 po. Diba? So far, so good. Okay na tayo. Ngayon, gawin natin si missiles. So, for the missiles, alam naman natin na kapag pinindot natin si si space button, yan. Pag pinindot natin si space button here, it will simply fire, yan, and will now eventually instantiate the missiles one by one. So, yan na natin to. I-uncomment ko tong mga to sa spaceship kasi the spaceship, of course, merong missile dyan. Pero gagawin na rin natin to kasi. So, ayan, missiles. For now, it will still produce an error because, syempre, wala pa yung ginagawa natin dito. So, create tayo dito ng missile. So, this should be missile.java. I think I'm gonna go ahead and place that here, somewhere dyan. Kasi medyo maiksi lang naman yung code nito. Missile.java natin. Okay? So, for the missile.java here, same with the spaceship, we will be extending or using the sprite. Tapos dito, I'll be importing missile kasi wala na pala tayong import dito. Yan. So, using the public missile int x, int y. Yan. Para lang mawala yung error nito. Tapos, yan na natin si private final int board width natin. Board _ width is equal to 390. Tapos si private final int missile _ speed equals 2. So, para every 2 lang ang pag-ganun niya. Diba? So, public missile int x, tawagin natin si super x and y. Tapos, I'll set the missile. Tapos, we have here private void, init missile, and using the load image, we have here src. Take note ha, yung load image, dito ko siya tinatawag. Yan na, load image. Ito po yan. So, src _missile.png. Tapos, we will be getting the image dimension. And this time, the missiles will move. So, public void move. Ayan. For as long as x, yung position ni x, nagaganyan siya nag-i-increase siya. So, yung missile speed natin yan, increasing into 2. Tapos, if x is greater than the board width, what will happen? The visibility equals false. Anong ibig sabihin nito? Now, this simply means that if the missile actually reached the point na sumobra na siya sa board width, the missile will simply disappear. As simple as that. So, ganun lang yung idea ng code na yan. So, tingnan natin kung nawala na yung errors dito. Yes. So, in the spaceship, meron na tayong missile. Diba? So, nag-declare na rin tayo dito ng array list for the missile in which we will be putting all this one, ito, inside the fire method. So, kapag ka nag-press ka ng space, anong mangyayari? Magkakaroon ng missile. Magdadagdag yun ng missile doon mismo sa position ng aircraft. Diba? Tapos, doon sa position ng aircraft na X and Y, divide by 2 na siya. So, i-work on natin ulit si board.java dito because syempre, something will happen if ginawa na natin or if since winark out natin si missile, something should happen inside this one. So, saan kaya natin siya work? So, we have the in-game, you have the init board which is so far, it's actually good. Diba? So far, okay pa yan. The paint component here, tingnan natin. The paint component, it's also the same. Now, this, dito tayo sa tinatawag natin na draw objects because for as long as it is in-game, diba? For as long as it's not yet game over. Yan. So, magkakaroon tayo dito ng list. Lahat ng missile na nilagay natin, I'll name that as MS. Tapos, si spaceship natin, I'll be getting the missile. Itong get missile natin. Asan yung get missile natin dito? Mamaya. Spaceship dot get missiles. Ayan. Ayan. So, may error tayo dito. So, in order for us to fix this list missile, I think may nakalimutan tayo dito import java.util.arraylist. Ayan. So, dapat mawala na to. Tignan natin. And we should have here import java.util.list. Ayan. So, nawala na yung error natin dito. Okay. So, list missiles. So, ibig sabihin, sa loob ng draw objects natin. Now, just like last week, for as long as the missile is actually being instantiated, yan, for every missile that is being instantiated, of course, for as long as the missile is visible, diba? Ano mangyayari? We will be drawing the image of the missile. Yan. Get image. Tapos, missile natin yung position niya. Get X. Tapos, missile that get Y. Yan. This. Yan. So far, so good, no? Mag-run kaya ito pagka nilagay na natin. Tignan natin. Now, we have here update ship. And we should have here at least another method in which the missile should update every time na nagmo-move. Diba? So, every time na nagmo-move siya. So, ang ginagawa lang kasi natin dito, pinakita lang natin yung isang position ng missile. But then, not really the entire missile being instantiated at the same time. So, missiles. Tama ba yung spelling ko ng missiles? So, update missiles. We have private void, update missiles. Now, we also have here a list of the missile. Depende. Hindi natin ma-determine kung ilan yung laman yan. Spaceship that get missiles, of course. Tapos, for every missiles, we start from 0. And the size of the missile, yan. Ang condition niya is for as long as it is less than the size of the missile will simply, keeps on updating. Tapos, if M is visible, what will happen? If the missile is visible, of course, it will simply move. Otherwise, if the missile reach the boundary, we will be removing the missile. Ano yung remove dito? Ito yun eh. So, we have here the move. Diba? And we have the remove. Diba? Ano yung i-remove natin? Yung missile na yun. So, kung alin yung na-reach yung bounds, it will simply be removed at the same time. Ayan. ms.remove. So, let's see. And, okay na yan. Wala pa naman tayong collision eh. So, dito tayo. Run natin yan. I hope this will work. So, ayun. So, kapag ka nag-space ako, so far, everything is working perfectly fine. So, kung napansin nyo, kapag ka nag-reach si missile dito sa may board width na to, yan, nagpa-false lang yung visibility niya. Okay? So, napakadali, di ba? And any questions so far? Mahaba-haba yung code natin, no? So far, we are done with the last week's code. Niba ko lang yung style or the way on how we code them. Pero the idea is still the same. Yung pagkakasunod-sunod lang yung pinagkaiba mismo. So going back to the module here, ayan, we have the board class in which we have the position of the alien ships in which gagawin natin the next, diba? So we have the positions of the alien ships. So copy-paste natin yan later on. Ayan. Basahin nyo na lang to kasi alam yun, nandito naman lahat eh. Now, the idea of this program is we will be instantiating the following aliens, pero we will be using not a random position but rather a, predetermined position. So whatever positions we have they have here, yun yung pinakagagamitin natin. That's the purpose of this code na nandito. This is simply the position of the aliens na meron tayo. So, going back to the board.java, we will now be working on with what we call the alien. So, dito, lagay natin dito yung position ng ating, so mahaba-haba ito eh. So, position 1, 2, 3, oops. I think dito. Yan. Tapos ito, copy-paste na lang yung nasa nasa module. Para hindi na kayo mahirapan. Ayun. Haba na. Anyways, position lang yan. Don't worry. So kung napansin nyo, medyo nag-out of bounds to. Kasi uusod yan. Ganyan yan. But we will actually make everything what you call this one, move to the left. So, gawa tayo dito ng panibagong class which is alien.java. Lagyan natin yan dito para madaling maano or dito na lang. Yan. So, we have alien.java. So, si alien natin.java, of course, saan ko ba siya nilagay? Dito dapat to. Refactor natin. Mali yung pinaglagyan ko. Do refactor. Okay. Ayun, nandito na siya. So, inside package collision detection na siya. Okay. So, we will be extending or inheriting the sprite. And this time, parang ginawa lang din natin sa missile. Meron tayo ditong public alien, int x, int y. Tapos we have here x and y. And init alien, in which dito natin ilalagay si alien na image natin. Ano yung pangalan ng image natin ng alien? Punta nga tayo dito sa C, users, idea projects, Java 2D game programming, alien.png. Okay, so alien.png pala siya. So we have private void init alien load image src alien.png. Okay. Tapos kunin natin si get image dimension niya. Get image dimension. Kukunin niya lang si width and height niya basically. So we have here public void move. Parang yung kanina lang din, pero this time, if the position of the alien is less than 0, ibig sabihin, less than 0. Sumobra na dito. Ibig sabihin, the position of the alien now will be the same position as initial underscore x. Yan. Initial underscore x, in which wala pa. Hindi pa natin yan nagagamit, diba? X. So, kapag ka na-reach niya na yung dulo dito, we will be having an initial, position of the image, which will now get the value, or which will now become the new value of x itself. So, ito, kung napansin natin, error pa to eh. Tingnan natin kung bakit error yan. So, wala pa kasi tayong position ito. So, gawin natin to na once na na-reach niya, private final int initial x is equal to, let's say 400. For as long as the position or the missile itself is less than 0, okay, the missile or the alien, I mean, will get the value of 400. So babalik siya sa pinakaumpisa. Okay, as the x position. But then the y position is still the same. So ganun po yung idea nun. Okay? So far so good with the alien natin na class. So I guess we can actually work on here dito sa may gawin natin si spaceship. Tingnan natin kung may pwede tayo ditong ma-work out. Kasi si spaceship, maglalagay ngayon tayo ng tinatawag natin na collision. So if the spaceship actually collided with the alien itself, something will happen, or syempre magi-game over na yan, 'di ba? Ganun din kay missile, kapag ka tumikit si missile mo kay alien mo, syempre magbabawas ng score halimbawa, or magdadagdag ng panibagong score. So we can actually try to check and see kung saan natin siya pwedeng i-work on. I am sure na wala na tayong papakialaman dito kay alien and missile. Pero dito tayo ngayon pupunta kay mismong board.java. I'm sure kasi sa spaceship, wala nang pakiyan eh. Kasi si spaceship, iisa na yan. Siya na yan. Diba? So, let's go ahead and move on. Punta tayo dito sa may board.java. Let's try to work on this. And let's try to see kung paano mangyayari dito. So, number 1, ito. Gagawa tayo dito natin ilalagay si alien eh. Yung mga coordinate natin kanina, kung natatanda mo. We'll be placing that dito. So, private alien. Yung mga alien na to, dito natin ilalagay yan. Kay list. Ilalagay natin siya as a list. Next is for us to work ditong ngayon kay init board. Sa init board, we have the in-game true, which is for as long as it's not game over. Yan. We have the set preferred size. We have the spaceship. And this time, gawin natin ngayon si init aliens. Si init aliens kasi, ang magiging purpose nito, it's a public void init aliens. And diyan natin ngayon ilalagay yung positions. I mean yung itong mga position natin kanina. So how are we going to do that? So declare an array list. Tapos for every array P na position natin, yan. So we will be adding the aliens inside the alien position of 0. This is the X and position 1. Ano siya? So, on P0, the position 0 here is actually, ito muna, position 0, position 1. So, ganun po yan. X and Y values yan eh. So, every time na chine-check ni code natin yung lahat ng array list natin dito, lahat ng array natin dito, it is being added to the aliens. Yan, na array list. So, kino-convert lang natin itong position na to into array list. So, nilalagay natin siya isa-isa. And in order for us to do that, this is the code on how you do that. Ano po siya. Okay? So, since meron ng aliens, try natin siya ngayong i-draw. Okay? Try natin siya ngayong i-draw. So, we can simply draw that here inside the draw object. Dito sa draw object na to, okay na si missile. So this time, we will be drawing the alien itself. So we have alien. For every aliens na drawing, what will happen or nagpapakita, we will now be checking if the alien is visible. And if it is that, if it's true, we will draw the alien. We will get the image of the alien. We will get the position of the alien. And we will simply get the position of the alien X and Y value. And of course, their initial position and this reference itself. Ayan. Okay? So, meron kang alien. So, okay na si alien nun. Try natin siya ngayong i-run. Tignan natin kung magpapakita na ba si alien natin. And I think hindi pa. Kasi may kulang pa tayo dito. And although nakakaano na, hindi pa gumagalaw si alien. Kasi hindi pa natin siya ina-update dito. Diba? So, we will be updating the aliens. So, update aliens. Dito ngayon kay ito. Update ship, update missiles. Private void, update aliens. Now, if the aliens is empty, and if the alien is empty, this time, yung in-game natin, magiging false. And if the alien is, if the in-game is false, ito, if the alien is, the in-game is false, papasok siya dito kay draw game over. Dito. So, maglalagay tayo ng something dyan. Diba? So, in-game is equal to false. And let's return that one. So, update natin siya. Pagalawin na natin. For every alien na pumapasok, aliens.size, I++. Yan. For every alien A, kunin natin siya. Aliens.getI. Tapos, if the is visible, if the alien is visible, let's make them move. Otherwise, if the alien is not visible, we will be removing that. So, ang ginagawa nito kapag ka natira, pagka naka-detect siya ng collision dito. Okay? Pagka naka-detect siya ng collision, doon may mangyayari. Yan, doon siya mariremove. Pero, tignan natin kung gagana na yan. Siyempre, isa-isahin natin yung code, no? Yan. So far, wala pa. Wala pa, di ba? Kasi nga kulang pa, wala pa tayong collision. Although meron ng update ship, may update missile land, may update alien na, may kulang pa tayo. Siyempre. So, gawin natin dito si in-game. Yan. Tawagin natin dito si in-game. Let's call this as in-game. The purpose of this one is private void in-game. For as long as this is only for the timer. For as long as we are still in-game, or we are not in-game anymore, the timer will stop. So as simple as that. For now. Okay? So ano pa ba? We have here update aliens, update missiles, update ship. Sa game over, I think okay na tayo dyan. Init board. Are we still missing something? Let's check. Hindi pa gumagalaw no? Okay. So I think time na nga para gawin na natin yung collision natin. So, check ko muna siya isa-isa. Ayun, nagets ko na kung bakit may error tayo. Hindi natin mapalabas si alien. Ito. Yan, alien.png. Alien.png kasi kanina. So far, dapat magpakita na sila Pero, kung napansin natin, hindi pa rin natin sila matira. So, I think this time, this is the perfect time for us to add they call this one, a collision. But if you noticed, once na na-reach ni alien tong part na to, dito, diba? So, bumabalik yan dito sa pinakaumpisa. Yan. Gumagano siya, umuulit siya. Paulit-ulit siya ng paulit-ulit. Diba? So, alright. So, let's work on with the collision. Ang idea kasi ng collision dito is simple. Imagine your alien. So, for each alien, you will be putting what we call the box. For each alien. So, meron kang alien dito. I-enclose mo siya into box. Now, if the box actually hit the missile and the spaceship itself, something should happen. Meaning, if the alien intersects with that, or with the aircraft and with the missile, something should happen. So number 1, gawin natin dito si update kay dito. Yan. Gawin natin siya dito. We will have here what we call check collisions na method. Si check collisions method, again, siya po yung magche-check ng collisions natin. Diba? So, yan. So, public void check collisions. I would like to put here a rectangle kay spaceship. Yan. So, kukunin ko yung bouncy spaceship. Ibig sabihin yung mismong position niya. Yung ano niya. Yung size niya. Kumbaga. Diba? Size within height niya mismo. Tapos, for every alien, yan. For every alien na for every alien that we have here, what's the alien here? Alien is actually in the list. Diba? In the list. For every aliens, i-check mo ngayon. Kukunin ko kasi ngayon si R2, which is the bounce for the alien itself. Diba? Get bounce. Sabihin, nilagyan ko ng bouncy spaceship, nilagyan ko rin ng bouncy alien. So, if the the rectangle for spaceship actually intersects with the rectangle spaceship, bounce for the alien, R2. Yeah. If they intersected, the spaceship will now be, of course, mawawala yung spaceship. So, basically, mag-error siya. Mawawala rin si alien. Pero this time, tatawagin mo ngayon si endgame as false. Ibig sabihin, if the endgame is false, going back dito sa my code natin ng endgame, if you can still remember, you have here endgame. Ito. Endgame. Asan yun? Yung code natin. Ito. If it is endgame, meaning if this is true, draw objects. Pero if it's game over, yan, papasok ko ngayon sa game over, diba? So, ganyan yung idea nyo, mag-game over na. Ibig sabihin, may magpapakita dito na message na game over na yung pangyayari. So, we can just simply put here a message, string, for example, game over. Yan. Tapos, siguro i-set natin yung font natin as font. Meron tayo ditong Helvetica, font.bold, and 14, for example. Tapos, si font metrics natin. Get font metrics. Small. Tapos, set natin yung color ng ating font because we have a black background. Tapos we will be setting the font as the small. Helvetica yan, basically. Tapos, i-draw na rin natin yung string. Diba, napakadali nito. So, kung saan yung position ni J-frame minus the position, the string width. Kumbaga, igigitna niya to. Whatever the whatever the message is, it will automatically be positioned in the center. At the center. So, ayun. Ganun siya. So, b_height divided by 2. Ayan. Okay. Goods. Now, I think we are still missing something. Kung titingnan natin yung module natin dito. We have here a very basic scoring. Ito, yung aliens left. So, ang purpose nito is every time na tinatamaan natin to, diba, nagbabawas yan dito. So, initially, gawin muna natin tong si aliens left. That can be added here in the draw objects. Dito, sa method na to. So, let's set the color into color.white. Oops. Color.white. And tapos, let's draw the string as aliens left. Tapos, tignan natin kung ilan yung alien, ilan yung size ni alien kanina dito. Depende yan dito. So, we should be expecting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 1, 2, 18, 4, 25, 26, 27. So, yun yung in-expect natin na size niyan. And the position, world position. Okay. So, nag-collide na, no? Nag-collide na si, asan yan? Collision. Kahit ako nalilito, no? Collision, ayun. So, if the spaceship actually collided with the alien, what will happen? The spaceship will become false. The visibility will become false. Mawawala siya. The alien visibility will also become false. And at the same time, the endgame will now be false. And it will simply call the game over na method. Yung game over na method na yan. So, sure ball, diba? Wala ka ng problema dyan. So, yun yung sa spaceship. Ngayon, gawa tayo ng para sa missile. If the missile, ayan, this ms equal to spaceship that get missiles for every missile that we have, ayan, for every missile na dumalabas, okay, let's put here a rectangle R1 for the missile, ayan. And inside that is for as long as lumabas din si alien, and for every alien and missile na lumalabas, let's put here R2 for the alien, and alien that get bounce. If R1 actually intersected with R2, napakasimple lang yan. M that set visible to false, and alien that set visible to false at the same time. Diba? So, mawawala yung missile. Mawawala rin syempre si visibility. Now, maybe you are wondering, Sir, paano mababawasan? Diba? Paano mangyayari yung pagbawas ng ano nyo dun sa may draw string mismo? Saan ba yung draw string natin? Dito. Ito. Diyan pumapasok yung alien that size because every time na tinatamaan natin yung aliens, of course, nababawasan ng isa yan. So, dito yan nagkakatalo. So, whatever the size of the alien that is actually visible in the screen as of the moment, yun yung magpapakita dito as the initial value ng alien size natin. So, if we will try or if we actually try to run this program, let's see what will happen. So, you have here, ayun So, meron ka ditong, ayun. So, kapag ka na-reach na yung alien mo dito na value na naging 0, tingnan natin kung ano mangyayari. So, nung dumikit na siya, ayun. So, nagkaroon ng game over. Pero mali yung pagkakaposition ko ng game over. So, ayusin natin yan. Mali pa pala yung game over ko dito eh. And so, the game over should be positioned properly. Like in the middle. I think may nagkamali tayo sa aking ito. Game over, small new font, get metrics, okay, set color, small, MSG, be width, minus, divided by 2. I think okay naman, no? Talaga may lang, nagka-problema lang talaga siya sa Ayan. So, try natin ulit. Try nating pagdikitin muna si spaceship. Dito, ayun. Yan. So, umayos naman na, no? Gumit na. Ulitin natin. So, try natin ubusin lahat ng spaceship. Ng aliens. Ayan. So, 9, 8, Your activity is actually a modification of this program. So you need to be in a group to modify this program. So i-announce ko kung ano yung klaseng modification ang gagawin nyo for this example. And so hanggang maubos siya. So pag naubos, ayun, game over na siya. So pwede nyo gawin dito, pag naubos yung alien, imbis na game over, pwede nyo palitan. Diba? So yun pa lang, at least na-kompleto na natin yung program natin. I think, mahaba siya talaga, pero challenging po ito since natapos na natin, no? So, I think it's perfect. It's time for us to take a screenshot of our program properly. So, punta tayo dito. Ayusin ko muna. Ayusin ko lang ito ha, para mas maintindihan natin. Yung port.java ang pinakamahaba dito eh. Okay? So, alien, missile, spaceship. You can go ahead and take a screenshot. This will actually serve as your activity na rin eh. So, board.java, the public board, and action performed. What else? Update aliens, check collisions. And there you go. So punta tayo sa sprite, the parent class. Yan lang naman yung parent class natin. Tapos si SpaceShip. Key pressed, key released, and the fire. Alright, do you have any questions so far? I think wala na, no? Sige, let's proceed with the next discussion in which yun yung gagawin natin, yung puzzle naman.